Hey everyone, Jay here, and welcome to Intro to Python lab number 23, Files Appended. Not upended, but appended. We will be adding content to files that already exist. And that files already have content in them. We'll be adding more text to the end of the file. In our previous lab, we were reading and writing to files. When you open a file for write purposes, the default for writing is to start at the beginning and write right over top of anything that might already exist there, which may or may not be what you want to do. If it's not what you want to do, then we can open it for appending purposes and we will just add to the end of it instead of overriding what's in there. Okay, that would be a big mistake if you had a bunch of data that you needed to keep and you wanted to add to it and instead you wrote right over it. That would suck so bad. If you didn't know about the append function, what you would probably want to do is open for read and write purposes, read until you reach the end of the file, and then begin writing. But that's a lot of extra work that we don't need to do because we can simply open for appending purposes, because when languages were being created, this was a problem that we already knew about. Not me personally, but people who wrote it. So let's get started. Let's look at our main function. I'm using the same file from last time. Still has text in it. I'm going to, I have a function called count lines, which is going to count how many lines already exist. I have another function called append line, which will append one line to the file that already exists. Excuse me. And then I have a third function called append to 10, which is going to append multiple lines. It's going to use the first two functions, going to count, see how many lines are in there, and then continue to use the append line until we've reached 10. And then at the end, I'm going to count lines again. And both times I'm counting lines, I'm printing that number to the console to see what number that is. So if I continue running these, the first time I run it, I'm going to get a file with 10 lines. Every additional time I run it, I'm still going to be adding this one line right here because that gets called regardless. But the append to 10, because I've already reached 10, it's not going to add more than that. And you'll see why when we get to that. So if I continue running this without modifying the file, every time it will just, first time we'll add up to 10, and then every other time it will just add one more because we are calling this. But let's look at what each one of these does. First is count lines. We have our while true with a break in it again, like we had last time. I'm opening the file for read purposes, setting a default variable of line count to 0, and then I'm going to loop through and read a line. All right, I have pretty much a copy and paste of my read from last time, but instead of reading, I'm just counting. Okay, so it's really, I'm reading the line each time, and as long as there's something in that line, okay, if there's nothing in that line, I've reached the end of file and I break. But as long as there's something in that line, I'm just going to add one to the count. And then at the end, I'm going to return whatever that value is. So the first time this should be 4. If you remember from our previous lab, previous video, we wrote 4 lines. So we should have 4 the first time we call this. Okay. Then after this is called, we're going to append a line. So now we're going to get our output file and we're going to open it with the modifier A for appending, which will take the internal cursor and put it at the end. Okay. And I'm just going to write appended line with a new line at the end every time this is called. And I'm not going to forget to close the file. Hey, look, I forgot to close the file on this other one again. Okay, don't forget to close the file or else it will remain open and you're going to have a memory leak and whatnot, and you're going to have problems. if your program is bigger than mine. My program is pretty small and it's kind of hard to run into problems with it. And look, I forgot to close the file at the end of this one as well. Don't forget to close the files. So append line opens it for appending, appends one line, and closes the file. Don't forget to close. And then the append to 10, what it's going to do is first it's going to call count lines, get a count, and then it's going to use a for loop and says for I in range from count up to 10, whatever count is, right? It could have been 4. No, we called append line one time. So its count's going to start at 5, and it's going to go from 5 to 10, call append line every time, and then we're going to close the file. Oh, no, we should not be closing the file here, right? We shouldn't be closing the file here because we never opened the file here. We called append line, and append line can do its own job. It's completely modular, self-contained. Append line will open, and it will write, and it will close. Append to 10 doesn't do any of that. It just delegates to append line. It says append line, do your thing, and it doesn't open or close files. Okay, so very good. Don't forget to close files except when you never actually opened a file in this function, right? So that is the append to 10, and we're going to run this, and let me give you the output, right? And I will run, and we have first one was 4, and the first counted lines was 4, and then we did one append, and we called append to 10, and then we could count again, and we got 10 in the end. If I run this again, all right, can we see that here? Let's scroll up. There we go. Now it starts at 10, and because I'm calling append line every time, it is going to count at 1 more every time. And I keep running this, I'm just going to get 1 more every time. And then if I come back to the output, let's show that. You'll see that it happens once more every time. And if I come in here and delete those, and then I run this one again, let me clear this, run it one more time, you'll see I have 4 and 10 again. Okay, so that's appending files. All right, we can, last lab we opened, we created, we read, we wrote. This time we are appending for those times when you want to write to a file, but the file already exists, it already has content, and you want to write to the end of the existing content. All right, so that's it for this video. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.